Alex, the international starts today. Name your favorite Dota character.
Uh, God, I'm actually just trying to remember the name of a Dota character.
You'll pass this test if you could just come up with one.
The Shitty Wizard?
Uh-huh.
Is that a character? I think it is.
There's got to be a guy with a staff of
No, I
some
mean I think
sort.
there actually is a character called the Shitty Wizard. I don't know if he's a playable character, but sure, I'll just say that.
Dota, the shitty... Okay, all right. Now I'm pulling up a Dota 2 wiki, which I feel like puts me on some sort of list somewhere. The Shitty Wizard is an inside joke within the Valve staff. It refers to a single person who is responsible for all Dota 2 bugs. Look at that.
All right.
Why
Well,
do you even know that nugget of information? Where did that
I
come from?
I think that came from when Brad and I ended up at Valve when we were in Seattle last year. Like we did a
Oh,
quick
right.
tour around. And I cannot remember exactly how it came up. I think I got a T-shirt that had the Shitty Wizard on it, and Brad was super like, "Oh my God, it's the Shitty Wizard." So that's why that stuck with me. Other than that, I got nothing for you, man. Sorry.
That's fine. You know, you're not coming to the morning show for a brilliant Dota commentary. Not even
I mean, I would
good
certainly
Dota
hope.
disses. I don't even know where to begin. I respect Dota. I just don't. I don't have a tough time to play it.
Yeah,
When you
I
tell
mock
me
it.
when you tell me 80 hours to start, I tell you
No.
probably not.
Yeah, I mock it just because of how dedicated Brad is to it. But honestly, whatever. It's a game people obviously love very much, so there's nothing wrong with that. I just,
I'm jealous in a
you know,
way.
I'm not because I have games like that I am certainly dedicated to. So I'm perfectly happy to play those instead of Dota. But that said, you know, it seems like. I mean, I don't know. Brad took a picture this morning from I guess, the stage at the International, and holy shit, I guess Dota is a real big deal because that is a huge, gaudy setup they have for that thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. I'm gonna try and I'll at least have the international sort of noob stream running on my iPad throughout the weekend, and I'll just sort of tune into it every once in a while. I think I'm actually going to try and watch the finals
Yeah,
just because I don't know. It's being part of the zeitgeist is fun, even if I'm not necessarily. But then they have the newbie stream, so I'll at least have some sense of what's going on. So I'm gonna try and at least watch the finals like for real. But
yeah.
we'll see how that goes, I guess.
In theory, that it should work out. I mean, that's kind of what I did during Evo. Like, I watched the Ultra Street Fighter finals, and I watched a little bit of the Killer Instinct stuff. Because I don't really have it in me to watch like an entire 3 days of fighting games, but I have enough to watch the best players play each other for the end game. So that's that was about what I could take.
Well, actually, so to jump ahead a little bit, so ESPN is carrying the international this year.
I'm sorry, what?
Uh-huh. So Valve is partnering with ESPN to broadcast the. I'm reading. So this is written for more a mainstream audience. I just pulled up a USA Today article. The International Dota 2 Championships, which starts in Seattle on July 18th. The tournament will be carried live through ESPN 3 with an exclusive preview show highlighting the International's final match, which will appear on ESPN 2. So it can't quite graduate to ESPN 1, the channel that everyone watches. But
Right.
depending on what they're covering, they can climb up to ESPN 2. And it will also include highlights, analysis, and interviews with players and Valve's Gabe Newell. ESPN 3 is available through smartphones and tablets, blah, 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 blah.
Are they only? There's only 3 ESPNs, right? There's the 3 ESPNs, and there's like the college-focused ESPN, and that's it, right?
I'm typing in ESPN 4, and there's nothing. So yeah, I think
Okay.
it starts. But
They haven't gotten to ESPN the Ocho yet, so all right, that's good.
no, it's
Um,
kind of amazing though. Just like in the abstract.
it is Dota is an electronic sport. ESPN covers sports. It is a natural pairing, I
Maybe
guess.
I'll watch it on ESPN. They
Yeah,
gotta talk like normal people on that.
let's get Chris Berman on there talking about lanes and shit. Big plays, motherfuckers. What's Stuart Scott got to say about Dota?
That's actually really fascinating. Okay, so now I found my angle, which is I'm only mildly interested in watching Dota in the same way that I was interested in watching the World Cup, which is wow, everyone's really interested in this. Maybe I should check it out. Um, but the fact that ESPN is going to be covering it is fucking fascinating.
It is. It makes you realize that they, like all other brands of network television at this point, are realizing that just focusing on their core thing is maybe not enough these days. Like maybe they have to branch out a little bit just to kind of see what else they can pull in.
No,
I mean,
I want
ESPN is still they're still the biggest sports network, but still.
I think what's critical here is if they do it a second time, right?
Right.
Like, they used to, what was that? Oh, that failed initiative to like cover competitive Madden. Wasn't that on ESPN? Do you know what I'm talking about? Oh, like an old video game show. Oh God.
Oh.
Do you have any idea what I'm talking about? That's scratching something vaguely from like 7 years ago in your brain, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but it's not coming to me.
Okay, chat will probably inform us, but yeah, I'm curious if this is more, is this ESPN saying, "Gee, we want to be relevant with the kids"? Is it a meaningful interest in covering something like this? Whatever the case, it's good for video games.
It is. It's a degree of legitimacy, I guess, at least in the eyes of kind of like a mainstream network like that. But like you said, it all depends on whether they do this again. This could end up being just an experiment that they're like, that was too weird. We're never going to do that again. Or next year they could have a dedicated Dota announcing team, and how fucking weird would that be?
Gosh. Wow. Okay. Now I'm even more interested.
Yeah.
What have you been up to this week?
Oh God, I've mostly been recording stuff with Vinny. We had a few different quick looks go up on the site. We got a couple more in the pipes, including Olli Olli for the PC, which is embargoed until next week, so I can't talk about it yet. But since we never got to do anything on the Vita version of that game, we will finally have something up for that video wise. It didn't end up playing a whole lot. I downloaded The Fall after watching Vinny play it for a while. During our stuff this week, and I realized you did a worth playing of that game. I think that was a week when I was just barely keeping track of what was going on, so I kind of missed that video that week. So I apologize for that. You were right. Vinny was right. Everyone was right. The Fall is a pretty amazing fucking game.
Vinny had, he was looking through Steam and was like, what about The Fall? This looks kind of interesting. And I was like, yeah, I played half an hour. It seems all right. But, I heard the combat's kind of weird. And he's like, well, I'm maybe going to check it out. And then I got an IM the next morning. Was like, I beat The Fall. You just went straight through it.
I haven't beaten it yet. I put in a couple hours in it yesterday when I got home. But that game is really cool. Like, mechanically, it's a little stiff in a couple of spots, but like atmospherically, it's awesome. It actually tells like a really interesting story in kind of a minimalist way. The only part I don't super love is like the actual shooting, but I do really like it when I nail a dude with that gun. Like a headshot with that gun is really satisfying, I have to say.
For people that don't really, because you can't talk about Olli Olli's PC version, but
no, I can't
like,
for some reason.
What is Olli Olli?
Olli Olli is a skateboarding game that was released for the Vita earlier this year. It looks like a mobile game. It kind of looks like an endless runner, but it is not an endless runner. Like the levels have endpoints, but it's a score-based game, and most of it is just about using the left analog stick to kind of flick and rotate around to do different tricks. And then there's a landing button. So like anytime you want to land a trick, you have to time the button press correctly to get like the maximum score.
So you're not just lining up like, hey, I'm flat and I'm not gonna fall on my head. You actually have to time hitting the ground.
Exactly. So in doing that, it becomes a really timing based thing because you have to kind of try and keep these combos going while also landing them correctly, and that is a lot harder than it sounds. I don't know if it's just my idiot brain. I played a ton of it on the Vita, though I also had a real hard time progressing through that game because my brain naturally wants the jump button, like the trick button, to be the button that is also the landing button. Because normally when I'm doing tricks in a game like that, I'm not just moving the stick around, I'm pressing buttons to go with it too. So for some reason, anytime I want to land a trick, I am instinctively hitting the X button, then hitting it again when I'm trying to do a trick, and that keeps tripping me up. Like I keep wanting to do the opposite thing that I'm supposed to do, and that sometimes fucks up my combos in a way that is extremely frustrating. I don't think it's the game's fault. I think it's my dumb rat brain's fault. I feel like it's maybe my own version of like what people were complaining about with Brothers last year. Like they just couldn't make the two-stick thing work for themselves. This, for some reason, gives me problems, but it is a really fun game regardless. And the trick system is actually really neat for how kind of simplified it is.
And then this isn't like a Tony Hawk style game where you have like a big kind of world that you're exploring. This is very much, here's a level, now grind and do the best you can in this little section, and then move on to the next one.
Right, you're given goals in those levels that will unlock stuff, and those, but you can progress through the levels just by kind of getting through them and hitting the score, like the score limits and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited to play it because for whatever reason, it did not pick up the Vita version, but I'm anxious to check out how the PC version is. So hopefully it's not garbage. I know you can't tell me, but hopefully it's not garbage. That would be nice. I'd be surprised if it was garbage.
You will find out on Tuesday.
Fair enough.
But other than that, so I played a little bit of the fall, played that. Haven't really gotten it. I keep threatening to play Divinity, but like I needed like a full day or at least several hour block to sit down and try that, and I haven't really done that yet, so I'm kind of waiting on that one.
Put about 8 hours into that, and how are you feeling about it? Feel completely overwhelmed. It's as I've mentioned before, I think very briefly when I mentioned that I'd started playing it, I'm not familiar with this specific type of RPG. Now, obviously, I've even just this year I've played a game that has a pretty intense stat screen, like the Souls games. You are dealing in a lot of stats and things like that. So, like the presence of a stat screen does not, inherently sort of freak me out. But there are just a lot of subsystems and rule sets and things that I'm just there's two things happening in Divinity Original Sin. One is that I'm just not familiar with this type of game, so there's sort of that layer of learning, and then there's a sub-layer of that, which is that lots of this game is obtuse for no good reason, and there's a reason that a number of writers have since who have fallen in love with the game have then wrote guides that are like, here are tips I wish I knew about Divinity Original Sin after sinking 20 to 30 hours in it. Which isn't to say that a game with an enormous amount of depth and complexity and the fact that you're playing it and would apply those lessons earlier is a bad thing, but there are elements of the game that just aren't communicated in ways that it could totally do that. And the game's being patched like every other day, so I imagine things like that might get smoothed out post-release. But in concept, it's sort of a Baldur's Gate style RPG in which it's very dialogue heavy. There's a lot of combat. The combat is very difficult, very punishing. You'll die a lot. I mean, the game tells you right up front, hey, you should be quick saving all the fucking time. Quick save. Don't worry about it. You can quick save mid-battle. So if you want to cheat the system, because there are dice rolls happening in Divinity Original Sin, you can just sit there and attack, reload, attack, and hope that you get a higher dice roll.
Okay. Are you enjoying it so far? I've had a lot of people say that it's a really exciting game in some ways, and in others, like you said, it can be incredibly obtuse and sort of awkward. Like, would I enjoy it? Like, this is the thing I have not been able to quite grasp yet. Is I have not played a lot of Baldur's Gate style RPGs over the years. I've played a few, including I think I did play some of the original Baldur's Gate at some point. But I've not played any of the Divinity games before. I've not played anything from this series. The things I hear about it sound like it is really fun, but you have to dedicate yourself pretty much to really learning its kind of weird intricacies, and I'm not sure if I necessarily have that dedication.
So like here's a weird part. So you can trade with anyone in this game. At any character you encounter, there's a button that allows you to look at what they have in their inventory, and you can trade with them and buy whatever items they happen to have. A lot of people don't have anything worthwhile, but the idea is that this is a world in which anyone would be willing to trade in order to kind of get ahead. And that is a cool idea, except that the game doesn't really have the equivalent of, well, go to the magic shop, go to the weapon shop. It's like when I need to find skills for my archer,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I don't remember that he's on the second floor of the fucking library. Why would I know that? Well, you would know that because you do it enough times and then you remember. But in the early parts, it's like, okay, I've got to have this guide open that tells me, okay, I need this skill book, so I got to remember this guy is over on the upper right-hand corner of the map for no good reason. Why isn't he just in the town square where other people are selling stuff? Well, just because, no, he's not there. So there are things like that you kind of have to get over. And it's one of those games that I feel like once I get over a hurdle, I'm not going to be able to stop playing. Like I can, as I'm playing it, I can sort of see it. I can sense I'm going to hit a tipping point. But it's a game where I need to get there, and I need to kind of grind through just learning the systems and the ways that I will come to grapple with those systems, and then becoming comfortable with those systems. And getting over that sort of hump takes a long time. I've been playing it at about 2-hour chunks, like once a night this week. And I mean, there was one time where I played for 2 hours, and I didn't leave like the general space I was in, because it was a lot of spending time in the inventory and looking at stat screens and looking at perks, and then like I didn't understand how to even buy stuff. So you pull up the trade screen, right? And then there are items, you know, it shows your inventory and then the inventory of the person you're trading with. And so I dragged over a skill book, and then it's like, well, how do I buy this? Well, it turns out that you have to drag over your gold. Like it's just like I'm not used to that part of it. I'm used to just I want to buy this. So you click it, you buy it, and the game is smart enough to go, hey, I'll just pull that out of your gold stash. Furthermore, your gold can be spread across multiple characters. There is not just the gold that your party has. So if you happen to initiate the conversation with the character that doesn't have all your gold, or the gold that you need to get the amount you want in order to buy this item, you need to exit out, pool together your gold, or buy it with the other character. So it's stuff like this that drives me nuts.
Yeah, that would probably drive me crazy.
Or, you know, one character is my blacksmith, right? So if I have a sword that is getting, you know, close to breaking, I need to unequip it, send it to the blacksmith character, repair it, then send it back to the character that wants to use it, and then equip it again. Why can't the game just go, I realize you have a blacksmith, why don't I just make that a universal subsystem, right-click, and repair it? Like, why do I have to send it to the character? I mean, I get it because it's him. He should have to do it. But it's just little things like that start adding up over time. I'm pulling my hair out and wish that I could, you know, it's just if the game could acknowledge you have a blacksmithing ability. Let's just skip the bullshit and let you repair in any screen, because why should you have to send it to the blacksmith?
Huh. Yeah, that all sounds a little bit annoying, but at the same time, that doesn't sound necessarily completely unmanageable. So
no, but it is these little things up front that I'll end up just figuring out, you know, how to automate or how to do much faster, and they won't be things that I complain about because these are tiny little nuances. But in the early game, when you're getting your ass kicked by this mob that you run into over and over again, and then you're like, okay, well, maybe I need to go buy some stuff and repair my items. And it's just then coming to grasp with all that stuff takes a long time because the game doesn't walk you through it, which is fine. And it is satisfying to learn how elements of the game works on your own, but it also means that you're looking at 5 to 10 hours of learning the game before you can actually really do anything in the game. Like I'm 8 hours in, and I just left the main town to go on like my first quest that takes me outside of that little space.
Well, I want to say I will dedicate some time to it this weekend, but I don't know if I can necessarily promise that because I did just download the Destiny stuff. I
just gave you a ringing endorsement for this game. I just told you all the things that are really fun about it, which is why everyone's having a great time with it. And I feel like after this weekend, I might be able to do that.
I am totally not pressing uninstall on that game right now. That's not happening.
I feel bad because I know people really, really love this game. And I think part of the reason that people really love this game is for this stuff, right? So it's very old school in a way that we don't see from games. And the automation of the RPG-ness of games is sometimes taken to extremes that I kind of understand why it bothers some people, or they go, man, I really liked it when you really had to get your hands in there and you really had to do all this stuff with all your characters. Where for some people, spending all this time with the customization and managing your inventory, that is interesting to some people. That is not really interesting to me. But I've talked to enough people that have told me, look, you'll get over that stuff, and then you'll get into this interesting story with really gratifying combat, and don't worry, you'll be fine. And so I'm just sort of waiting for that moment, because I had one of those in Dark Souls when I fought the gargoyles, which are this set of two bosses you have to fight at once that are enormously difficult. When I beat that boss, everything about Dark Souls clicked, and I was not going to stop. I was going to beat that game. It was immediately one of my favorite games because of that moment, and I guess I'm just kind of waiting for that in Divinity.
Fair enough. Well, other than Divinity, is that pretty much what you've been playing this week? You got anything else that you've been trying out?
So I didn't, before I went to dinner last night, I had about 20 minutes, and that was not, you cannot load up Divinity when you only have 20 minutes. All you're going to get done is maybe rearranging your inventory. So I was like, all right, well, what can I do for 20 minutes? I can't watch a show. It's like, maybe I should play something else. And I had gotten a code for Crypt of the Necrodancer, which is a game that I have seen a number of times at PAX. And actually, a fancy dance pad just showed up at my apartment from the developers. So if you've been to PAX, if you've been to, I guess, any convention in the last couple of years, you might have seen Crypt of the Necrodancer because they are often showing it on a DDR pad or a modified DDR pad, because the game is a rhythm-based roguelike in which, so if I can kind of describe how the game's divided into squares. And so you can move one square at a time, but you can't just move by hitting up, down, left, or right when you want to move at any time as you're allowed to do in just about any game. So in Crypt of the Necrodancer, what you do is you have a heartbeat at the bottom, and that heart beats to the rhythm of the track that's playing, and so you move to the rhythm. So it's like up, 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 right, right. So you're kind of moving in tandem to the rhythm of the track, and when you go to different stages, the rhythm also changes. So, as the game begins, you're going pretty slow and deliberate. So like up, up, up. But then you get to the second level and it's up, 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 up. So even if you've come to understand the enemies that are in this first kind of world that you're exploring, immediately the way you play changes because you have to continue going to the rhythm in order to progress. So it's not that you can't kind of brute force your way through. You can just kind of keep tapping forward, and your guy will move in the direction that you're trying to kind of just brute force through. But because it's a roguelike, you have to, everything that's happening is only happening in that run. And there's an exception to that I can get to. But the gold you're collecting from killing enemies, you get a coin multiplier if you can stay in rhythm. So if you want to buy the more powerful items, then you want to stay in rhythm as you're moving forward through the dungeon, which encourages you to make sure that you're actually sort of going tap, 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 according to the beat of the game.
Gotcha. I'm trying to think. And I think the only person I know who still has a dance mat that wouldn't have to be sent to him to play this is probably Jeff Gersman.
I have multiple. I was really, really into Dance Dance Revolution. Really into Dance Dance Revolution.
I feel like that should be surprising to me, but for some reason it's not.
I went deep down the DDR hole. I owned almost every single release on the PS1. The PS1 was so easy to play Japanese games. There was the swap trick, but I had an actual, sort of I had both a PlayStation 1 that was like physically modded with the chip, and then you could also use like a Game Shark. They could
That
like
was
plug
what
into
I used. Yeah.
the I/O port that got
Yeah.
eventually eliminated out of later models of the PlayStation 1. So anyway, so it was very easy to play Japanese games, and this was back in a time when a lot of stuff didn't come over. So I had every single, or just about every single DDR release, because I was totally obsessed with those games.
Well, I guess I know who's going to do the unfinished video for Crypt of the Necrodancer, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to set up a camera in order to do that, because Lord knows we need to see what kind of moves Patrick Klepek has.
I used to be really good. I used to be really, really good. I was
believe
one of
you.
those. Was playing on, what was it? Not, I think Maniac was what they called, like the extreme difficulty. I'm forgetting my DDR terms, but yeah, I played high-end DDR.
Were you like one of those people that would like go to the arcades and just like grab the bar, and then your feet would just basically turn into like a weird Warner Brothers cartoon blur of just like cloud of just fucking speed?
No, though I wasn't that good.
Okay.
That was a technique to play the fastest of songs, just because you would hold the bar in order to stabilize yourself, because otherwise when you're kind of bouncing up, down, left, right, like the amount of time you would spend bouncing would prevent you from actually being able to hit the steps fast enough. So I wasn't quite there. I wasn't what I couldn't have do to that. But DDR is what got me into rhythm games. Like that's what now rhythm games are probably. It's not a genre that's around nearly as much as it was sort of with the rise of DDR, and then the apex being sort of Guitar Hero and Rock Band in terms of sort of mainstream prevalence. But yeah, DDR is what got me like super into Samba de Amigo and really into Drum Mania. It's what allowed me to play Rock Band, like 8 years before Rock Band was even a thing, because you used to be able to connect. There was a specific editions of Drum Mania on PS2 that could also play with Guitar Freaks. They started putting out Drum Mania Guitar Freaks compilations that had tracks that could be played with either a guitar and a drum, and then there were select tracks that could play with both of them. And they also had a guitar and bass sections. So I was playing Rock Band in my freshman dorm room with Drum Mania and Guitar Freaks.
I remember when Drum Mania first came to the States, Jeff invited me over before I ever worked at GameSpot to just try it out, because he was not a drummer and he did not have any real perception of like how that game emulated drumming. And I thought it was terrible. Like the controller that they released in the US, at least, I know that there's like an arcade version that is much more like a big crazy drum rack kind of thing, but the one they released in the US, the home controller, I just remember it was like a few pads laid out in a way that did not feel particularly natural, and the floor, the kick pedal thing, was just this little nub thing that you just kind of stomped on, and
it was so easy to break.
And if the floor was carpet, you couldn't actually hit it well, because it would just kind of sink into the carpet without clicking properly.
Yeah,
so
that drum set, specifically the kick pedal, which you could turn off, and we actually ended up usually turning off because it was a nightmare to use.
Yeah, it did not seem like a very good game, and it did not seem like the drum beats that were built in, and it might have just been because I wasn't playing on the expert level or whatever, but it did not seem like the drum stuff really matched up super well to how you would actually play those kinds of drum beats.
No, I mean that's sort of the Konami line of music games in general did not function that way. They would, on the surface, maybe follow kind of generally speaking the flow of a song, but it wasn't at all like Guitar Hero or Rock Band, in which they tried much harder to give you a little bit of a sense of like a chord progression or something like that. Especially on the drums, obviously they were able to replicate that.
The original drum, definitely the original Rock Band drums certainly had their share of breaking problems, but I think the layout and the design of that thing was much more conducive to something close to actual drumming than any of that home release Drum Mania stuff ever was.
Yeah. And then I remember this one didn't, I can't imagine it came home because the apparatus wouldn't make any sense, but I got really into for a while at this arcade that was near us. Did you ever play Para Paradise?
I did not.
So Paradise is one where you just use your hands. So it has like these four. They weren't orbs, but it's four sandwich-looking things, kind of. And then you would move your arms between them in order to sort of trigger the on-screen prompt. So you were kind of just doing like you kind of looked like you were doing like awful white boy ninja moves while you were playing it. But it was tremendous. It was tremendously fun. You looked like a complete idiot doing it. I remember it was one of the first dates that I went on with my wife was going to this arcade with a group of friends. I don't think I made a good impression.
Yeah, well, obviously made a good enough impression because many years later, here you are. But at the same time,
yeah, I do not recommend it to take. Don't take your future wife on a date to go play Paradise and DDR. Doesn't make you look that cool. I don't think. Or maybe I don't know. I got married, so maybe it does. I don't know.
Maybe it actually is super endearing in a really dorky kind of way. I don't know, but in this case, it seems like it worked out for you. So good for you.
There are people who are in the chat are like, we have to find videos. There are a lot of videos of me playing DDR. Back when I was into DDR was when me and my friends discovered Adobe Premiere and made all sorts of videos of ourselves, many of which are wildly unshareable. And I'm very glad that YouTube and things like that didn't exist back then. I would deeply regret some of the stupid stuff we did now. But I will see if I can find a DDR video, and if I can find one, I'll put it up on the site. I'm willing to do that for you guys.
Quick look throwback. Patrick Klepek showing you how to play Dance Dance Revolution the right way.
That's actually, you know what? That's brilliant. Maybe that's probably what I just have to title that video when I find it. No introduction, just a weird VHS-looking tape of Patrick playing Butterfly from Dance Dance Revolution, which people who have played DDR you'll know that track.
No, I don't even play a lot of DDR, and I know that song.
Okay, yeah, that was like the track.
Yeah.
From DDR. Anyway, I did not expect to be talking about my deep dark secret of being a high-level DDR player when I was 16.
Hey, Crypt of the Necrodancer, it's bringing all the memories back. So you're gonna definitely play it with the dance mat then.
Well, so that's more of a gimmick. You can play it that way.
Sure.
There is an easier mode that is listed in the menu in which you can. It's like dance pad mode. I mean, you could theoretically probably play the normal mode with it, but I think they recognize that wouldn't be really fair. They do ask you to be pretty nimble on the keyboard. And the game goes into early access later this month, July 30th, I believe. So if folks want to get in on that, it's the hour or so I've played is remarkably competent. They're very upfront about what's not finished, which is mostly, hey, if you get deep into the game, you're going to realize that levels aren't finished and that enemies are clearly placeholder. But, unlike some other early access games, there's a lot that you can sort of chew on early on. And even though I've only played an hour, immediately I was already hooked, and I can see myself sinking a ton of time into this game going forward. And you can put in your own MP3s. It'll analyze that and the beat of the stages will then map to whatever song you put in.
That is always my favorite thing that they can do when they do it in rhythm games. I mean, it's what got me into Audio Surf for such a long time there. Wish I could say that it got me into Audio Surf too, but not so much. But that said, what little I've seen of Crypt of the Necrodancer looked really cool, and your description of it sounds like something that I would really enjoy. And if I can, throw the new Mastodon record in there, or that horrible Brooklyn Girls song or whatever, then yeah, totally, I'm fucking doing that.
Yeah. I guess for some reason when I would see Crypt of the Necrodancer at PAX and other events, I hate to be so dismissive, but I saw the dance pad and was just like, I don't need another gimmick game. Like that's fine. Like I get why there's a big crowd looking at this because it's a dance pad. That's cute. That's neat that you did that. But for some reason that worked the opposite on me and just sort of made me distance myself from the game. Obviously it's it's not out yet, so I'd look when it got closer, but it certainly was not really on my radar. But having played it, I mean, it only took one one trip to the dungeon to suddenly realize that I think Crypt of the Necrodancer is going to be something pretty special.
Breakfast King actually asked an interesting question here in the chat. Has any Steam Early Access game ever come to a full release yet? I feel like I haven't seen that.
That's... I
feel like something has to have, right?
Yeah,
I just haven't. So the last 2 weeks has kind of been my harsh, immediate education on early access stuff, because I've been watching some of the unfinished videos, but I haven't really played many early access games at all. So now I'm starting to kind of get a sense of like what those games actually look like when they're released, and the variance in quality and stuff that like actually those games have is pretty crazy. But I cannot actually remember offhand a game that went from early access to full play yet.
Someone in the chat will let us know.
Certainly someone must remember something.
Oh, Divinity Original Sin.
Was it?
Mercenary Kings?
Mercenary Kings. Is Rust final yet? I wasn't sure if Rust was final yet.
Rust is definitely not.
Okay.
Final.
Mercenary Kings and Divinity, though. Okay. Well, there you go.
That's an RPG. That's an interesting... I guess I didn't realize. That's how far off Divinity Original Sin was in terms of a game I ever thought I'd be interested in. Also, yeah, people point out Wasteland 2 is coming out pretty soon, and that's been in early access for a good long while.
Yes, it has.
Xenonauts. Okay, so there's a bunch of them. Yeah.
I didn't know Xenonauts went early access. I thought, because well, again, Vinny and I didn't play it until it was actually out, but I thought that was just kickstarted, but I didn't realize there was an early access portion of that as well.
Yeah. So
Several.
Look for more Crypt of the Necrodancer. I'll be playing probably a decent portion of that over the weekend, in addition to Divinity Original Sin. But we should move on to the news. There was quite a bit that happened this week. Exciting and depressing news. They announced Fatal Frame for Wii U.
Yeah.
Exciting because, goddamn, does it look good.
Yes, it
And
does.
also, it's the first Fatal Frame on a platform beyond the PS2. There was a Wii one, but that was, basically last generation technology. But also Nintendo, despite having a financial stake in the Fatal Frame series, has also not shown a lot of interest in bringing it to America. Fatal Frame on Wii eventually came to Europe and Australia, but it did not come to America. I've also heard it's not very good. I think you mentioned that.
I did, and I people I know who are very dedicated fans of that series have had nothing good to say about that Wii game. So,
yeah, but this one looks pretty good. As expected, it uses the gamepad as your camera obscura, essentially your the fancy name for that game's in-game camera that you use to attack a ghost, which makes a lot of sense and also sounds terrifying. And they announced it comes out on September 27th. In Japan, there's been no word on whether or not it will come out over here, but Nintendo has been so pandery lately to its users, with the grand exception being Mother 3, although I have a sneaking suspicion they might even pander on that at some point in the future as well. I really hope this comes out over here. I'm not holding out hope it's going to come out in 2015 or 2014, but I'd love it if it came out in October. But most likely, I think it comes out maybe early next year if we get it at all.
But this is the thing, though, right? Nintendo needs games, and when they have games, they sort of can't afford to not put those games out in places where people might conceivably buy them. I can understand if maybe they don't have it ready in time for this year, but I don't think they can. I mean, even if Fatal Frame is kind of a niche thing, which it is, but it has a dedicated following, and if they spend the right amount of money on getting that game into the U.S., I feel like that can't hurt them, really. It's not a game that they need to market super wide, but at the same time, there are a lot of people I know that count Fatal Frame among their favorite franchises. So I feel like there's enough of an audience to make it worthwhile. And I just want that game to be good, because it's been a long time since I played like a good Japanese kind of survival horror, or not necessarily survival, but horror game. Like I want something like that. It's been a while.
Yeah. And in the Fatal Frame series, I went back and played a little bit of Fatal Frame 2 earlier this year, and the first hour, just as scary as I remember those games.
Oh, yeah.
They hold up incredibly well. I only played 1 and 2. I'm not even sure I finished either of them to completion. I didn't play 3, and obviously I didn't play 4. I played a little bit of the god-awful 3DS game that came out, I believe, last year.
Oh, was it a spirit camera or whatever?
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
And Nintendo published that. So you monsters, if you are willing to publish some complete garbage 3DS AR game, then put out this freaking Wii U game.
Yeah. I mean, they could just make it a digital release if they really wanted to. I mean, they don't necessarily have to put it in stores. I think the people who would buy a Fatal Frame game in 2014 would be perfectly fine just downloading it.
Oh, and then put out all the other games on Virtual Console. Do it.
Yes, especially the ones that were only out on PS2.
Yeah, put out Fatal Frame 2 on Virtual Console. Call it a day. That's fine with me. It's the best one anyway.
HD remix.
Oh God. Man, I'd be into that. I would be into that. Although the PS2 one holds up remarkably well. It has a good art style. It is very playable, and even by 2014 standards. So we'll see. No word from Nintendo quite yet, but I'm already harassing Bill Trinan on Twitter, even though I'm sure he has no sort of control over whether Fatal Frame comes over. He follows me, and he's high up at Nintendo, so sorry, Bill Trinan. I'm just going to keep yelling at you on Twitter until you give me what I want.
You poke where you can. You exploit the resources you have.
Nintendo of America follows me on Twitter as well. I don't know if they read any of that stuff, but they follow me, so that notification is popping up somewhere. So once a month, I'm just going to keep saying, "Where's Fatal Frame? Where's Fatal Frame?"
Congratulations, you're the rest of the internet now.
Yeah, but I've got a little more power than the rest of the internet.
That's true.
My notifications show up somewhere. I may not make a difference, but they show up in higher places. That's all I can really do. That's all.
Fair enough.
Really do. I guess they just unveiled Doom at QuakeCon, which is also happening this weekend. I imagine we'll get a proper look at that game pretty soon, but they actually didn't time a trailer or anything to this presentation. They actually wanted to give this just for the people attending QuakeCon, which I think is cool. I think that is, you've got a bunch of fans in a physical space. It's what everyone does these days is that you're in that physical space and then you wonder why you did that because you just go to YouTube and you could have watched what you waited in line for.
Yeah.
But I think actually giving these people, the dedicated fans, a first look at Doom is pretty neat. I guess PC Gamer has some tweets about people that saw the I don't know if it's a presentation or just another trailer, but it says that the game is extremely brutal. A demon just ripped the player's arms off and beat him to death with them. The room is breaking out into a standing ovation. So
that sounds about right. That sounds about like what I would expect. Reading up on some of what they talked about, it sounds like there is perhaps a little bit more of a focus on hand-to-hand combat in this one. But that you will still have all the usual big guns with which to destroy demons. Otherwise, it sounds like this is yet another reboot, at least in their mind, in the sense that this is an origin story that takes place on Mars in a research center where demons happen. It's like, okay, sure, I guess we can do that again. I mean, Doom 3 came out, 10 years ago at this point, 9 years ago?
Yeah, okay, I've pulled up Jeff Keighley's Twitter account. Doom is an origin game, fast-paced combat set outside the UAC research facility on Mars being invaded by force evil. So it's a full-on reboot.
I do feel like you should not say origin game when you mean origin story, because that means something else also, which is not a good thing.
It's Twitter. Jeff Keighley types fast. He didn't have time to worry about semantics. Alex Navarro. But he also writes, Doom is built on id Tech 6, so a new version of the id engine beyond what was built for Rage and Wolfenstein. 1080p, 60 frames a second. They're showing a single-player demo, but obviously there's going to be a multiplayer beta if you bought Wolfenstein. Let's see. Inside UAC facility, lots of particles and lava, heavy melee combat, ripping out body cards, Mortal Kombat style. Forget key cards. Players just ripped arm off guard to scan his fingers on a hand scanner. It's all right. Okay, sure. Chainsaw acquired, new level of gore unlocked, yada, yada, yada. So it sounds violent. It sounds like they're really doubling down on extreme gore, which I guess, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Curious to see what it looks like. That game has been through the ringer.
Yeah, it has. It's hard for me to get excited at the prospect of a new Doom game because as much as I enjoyed the original Doom when I was a kid, that love did not last for me long into life. Like I played some Doom 3, but it never really got into it. That said, I was not excited for the new Wolfenstein, and that game managed to surprise me pretty well. So maybe this one will too. Let's just hope. Based on everything I've heard about that game's development, there's maybe some reason to be wary. We'll see.
Yeah, the difference being the pedigree behind Doom is a unknown quantity. id Software is not id Software anymore. I mean, they're
very different beast.
They're called id Software, but the people that have built the games in the past are a lot of them aren't there anymore. So it doesn't mean they can't build something interesting.
Yeah.
But it's it's a bit of a cautious wait and see on what they actually do here, as opposed to Wolfenstein, which yes, you and I, perhaps in retrospect, slightly unfairly wrote off based on what they were showing from the game over the course of its development. But the fact that a lot of Stargreaves talent was working on it certainly gave you this game could be really interesting and ended up being really spectacular as it turned out.
And in the case of Starbreeze is another studio that had that exact same thing happen, where it's like they had a certain pedigree and then a bunch of that pedigree left, and then they became kind of an unknown quantity, and then they made Brothers. So you never know. You never know.
Yeah, it can sometimes work out.
Yeah.
Also from QuakeCon, they're moving up. They're moving up the release date of Evil Within after delaying the release date for Evil Within, but only by a week. So the game's now coming on October 14th. I'm still really looking forward to that game. I hope that game is great.
I have heard not great things from people who have played it.
Shut up. Shut up.
I know.
Shut up.
I know.
Shut
Look,
up.
I want to be right there with you. I want to be as excited as you are. I want that game to be good. Everything. I just don't know, based on the things I've heard from people, if it's actually going to pan out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, geez. Okay, so I didn't quite realize this. I pulled up an article from Joystick about the upcoming or the modified release date for Evil Within, and they point out that that moves the game 1 week away from a terrifying day for video game fans, because a lot's coming out on October 7th. October 7th is NBA 2K15, Dragon Age Inquisition, Alien Isolation, Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor. Shadow. I don't want Alexa Ray Korea to come knife me because I called it Shadows. And Drive Club. All on the same goddamn day.
Damn.
That is... I'm not going to play NBA. I'm not going to play Drive Club. I'm really interested in Dragon Age, but I can see I'll play it later. That's fine. I can push that off. I'm cautiously interested in Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor, so depending on how reviews fall on that, that may be a game I want to play. But oh my god, of course I'm playing Alien Isolation. Of course I am.
Of course you are.
That's a rough day.
Yeah.
And then having to go on Evil Within right after that? That's really exciting though. And then if they put Fatal Frame that month, do it! Do it!
Just give Patrick all the
horror. Oh, yeah. Give me the October I deserve. Give me the October I deserve. And I guess the last major thing, Microsoft laying off 18,000 employees over the course of the next 6 months. Yes, you heard that right. They're not getting all laid off on the same day. They have 6 months to wonder, will you keep your job?
Yeah, that's a really fun little sword of Damocles to have hanging over you for the next 6 months.
So in broad strokes, what's happening is there's a new CEO at Microsoft who's kind of Satya Nadella, who's kind of coming in and cleaning up some of the grime from the Steve Ballmer era, one of which was this massive deal to acquire the cell phone company Nokia, which that deal closed in April. They spent $7.2 billion acquiring Nokia, and now 12,500 of the 18,000 layoffs will come from the redundancies in the Nokia department, because Microsoft also has their own cell phone division for Windows Phone. So that's
it's a lot of Nokia. They're also closing their Xbox Entertainment division, are they not?
They are. So, yeah, so there's actually two things. One, we learned yesterday that they're closing the Xbox Entertainment Studios, which was basically, a lot of what we heard about when the Xbox One was unveiled, a lot of what we heard about at that first E3 in regards to wanting to produce original content for Xbox Live in the same way that, they were trying to create a studio in the same way that HBO does their own, they started as a place where you watched movies, but then got into original content. And that's kind of what everyone does these days. Netflix has their own original content, Orange is the New Black, stuff like that. Everyone is making their own content to try and create stickiness with their own platform. So it was not a huge surprise that Microsoft was getting into that game, but apparently that studio was a mess. The Halo stuff's the only real thing that got off the ground, and the Halo stuff will continue. There's Halo Nightfall, which is a film not on the scale of like a blockbuster that you would expect to release in theaters, but a slightly bigger scale than just like a made-for-TV thing. And then there's also a Halo TV series that was rumored to be partnering with Showtime. That stuff will go forward, but the entire Xbox Entertainment Studios division has been shuttered completely, and they seem to be kind of getting out of the original content game. Right as Sony is just stepping up and doing Powers, which premieres in December.
Yeah, which we heard quite a bit about during that press conference. I mean, I guess this isn't really surprising because it didn't seem like that division really got super off the ground. I mean, there's those two Halo original things that are still in production, and then there's like a documentary film that they're working on as well.
Yeah, the Atari.
Sounds like those will complete.
Yeah.
Like those will get made, but then that's kind of the end of that division once that's over with. So who knows what will happen, to any of that stuff once that's over with. But at the same time, it does feel like they are suddenly realizing they have to trim a lot of fat, and unfortunately, a lot of those Nokia people happen to be that fat in this case. But there are these other divisions. I guess someone was saying that like part of the Xbox Europe division is also going to be part of this as well. So
yeah, so there's a report from MCV. It's a UK publication where they're reporting Microsoft is making big cuts to its Xbox EMEA team. Let's just say Xbox Europe. Xbox Europe. A source told MCV that as many as 75% of full-time Xbox Europe employees were being cut, with staff having to reapply for the remaining. So they're at
oh boy,
reapply for the remaining 25% of roles. The UK. Oh, okay, hold on. I guess. Okay, I can't just lump this in as Xbox Europe. So Xbox EMEA is different than the UK Xbox team. Sorry, I don't mean to be such an American with this. I'm kind of reading the stuff off the cuff. But the UK Xbox team has also been reduced slightly by 10%, and all contract roles have been cut. However, Microsoft did not confirm or deny those numbers when contacted by MCV. Microsoft says the reductions will not impact the launch of Xbox One in 13 European countries this September. Right, they're still launching that machine in a lot of parts of Europe.
Yeah.
We eliminated a number of EMEA roles in the UK office to gain efficiencies, said the Microsoft PR robot to MCV. Whew.
And all of this coming on the heels of the news that that wasn't the number one console in the nation. I guess Microsoft One or Xbox One sales effectively doubled in the last month since they dropped the price on it. So there's at least, I guess, one glimmer of positivity in all of that bullshit. But not great times. Not great times at all.
Gosh, and I ended up embedding the entire memo from Microsoft's new CEO in the post that I put on a Giant Bomb, and just corporate speak, which when the stuff goes through HR and lawyers, I'm sure all humanity is ripped from it, or at least there's only just like a few scraps left. But like the opening of that email, subject, starting to evolve our organization and culture, which the moment you see an email like that, bad,
something's up.
Nothing good is coming out of an email that begins like that.
Oh, hell no.
And then the first sentence is the one that really just... Last week in my email to you, I synthesized our strategic direction as a productivity and platform company. Just like, what is that even saying?
It's nothing. It's just trying to dance around a point with flowery language. That's it.
God. I synthesized our strategic direction. Just
I'm not even sure the
stop.
word synthesize actually works in the context of what he's saying at all.
You monster.
Yeah.
Just,
It's
yeah, it's nasty. And then 6 months? I mean, I
a
realize
long
that
time to wonder.
18,000 is like a stadium full of people that you're throwing to the curb, but it's going to take you 6 months to figure that shit out? Like, I get it's going to take you a couple of weeks, and it's nice if you think that your job is going to be eliminated, that you have time to figure your stuff out. But 6 months makes it sound like it's not like these people are going to get a note today that says, hey, you've got 6 months to figure your shit out. It's more like, for the next 6 months, you can maybe worry about the fact that your job might or might not be around. Have fun? Like,
Work
6
extra hard,
months?
because you never know.
That is an atrocity. Should not be allowed. I mean, I really, ugh.
It's bad stuff. It's just bad stuff all around. And, that's a huge, insane, unbelievable number of people to have to put through that. I mean, I know that company is like, 120,000 people worldwide, but still, that's nuts.
Some people asking about Quantum Break. Pulling up a story from The Guardian. Seems like some folks have contacted Microsoft about this stuff. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, well, the Guardian quotes a Polygon story, so let's click down the rabbit hole.
Might as well.
Quantum Break will be released next year with the game and show both on track. So Quantum Break, also one that has been saved from the cuts to the Xbox Entertainment Studios division, because one of the big things about Quantum Break was that there's supposed to be sort of a television show that goes in parallel with the game, and the two interact in a way that has not been fully revealed, but was sort of part of the pitch up front. So I wasn't going to be surprised if they just stripped that out of the game, but obviously maybe it's more.
I feel like when they talked about that game at E3 last year, Sam Lake was like, we already filmed a bunch of this stuff. So
Yeah,
I feel like the TV show portion of that might already, if not be done filming, then they've already done a lot of it.
Yeah. They haven't showed a lot of it, so.
No.
Although I guess we'll see more. We're supposed to get that first gameplay trailer at Gamescom, which is not that far off.
No.
And
one last note of news.
Yeah.
Curse of Nexramas coming out next week.
Right. Are you going to buy that stuff?
Yeah, so they're releasing the different single-player wings, I guess, over the course of 5 weeks. I think there's 5 of them, and they're doing one a week. Yeah, I am. I have enough gold saved up to grab at least a couple of those without having to pay for them. I may just buy the rest. We'll see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to new cards in general.
I need to get back into that game.
No, you don't. It will destroy you. So don't actually get back into that game. Let me take that bullet for you. But that said, very excited over here.
And then The Walking Dead episode 4 comes out next week.
Yes, it does.
Which gets us to the second half of that season and getting close to the finish line on that. Oh, I finished The Wolf Among Us as well. That finishes strong.
It does. I'm still that review is mostly written on my computer. I have not finished it yet because just this week I've been terrible at managing my time. That said, the more I think back on that series after kind of going through and replaying a bunch of it on a different platform, there's a lot of holes in that story that I'm very easily able to sort of like poke at now and kind of looking back on it in retrospect. I do think the conclusion is much stronger than most of the middle episodes, but it does not completely come together for me, which I'm kind of bummed about.
No, but I enjoyed it, broadly speaking. I'm glad it exists. I had fun with it, and I'm curious to see if they end up doing a season 2. I would bet, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Willingham is apparently canceling that comic series at some point. So
Right.
I don't know if they're going to keep messing with it. But I mean, it's a prequel, so there's probably still plenty of like timeline room for them to mess around in if they want to.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I guess that let's see if there's a question. But you guys are, you and Vinny are, you guys will be streaming later today, right?
Yeah, and I think we'll have a couple of guests with us, which I will leave as a surprise. But yeah, I think we're just going to stream for about an hour before the official Unprofessional Friday live stream begins. I don't know all of what we're going to be playing, but that said, pretty sure we're going to play some Gang Beasts, so at least we'll have that.
Awesome. And I'm also looking forward to, I'm not sure if you guys end up playing it, but I've been hearing Vinny talk about it all week. He's been playing Gods are watching.
Gods are watching.
Gods will be watching.
Gods will be watching. So he showed me a little taste of that yesterday, and that game seems fucking nuts in a way that I am actually really into. So I think we're gonna try and quick look that next week. That game just seems fascinating, and I'm really want to see more of it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of it too. Are you gonna play the Destiny beta over the weekend?
I'm going to try to. I'm probably not going to be around at all on Saturday, but I'm going to try and carve out some time on Sunday to mess around with that for a few hours. I would very, very much like to see what that is all about because I haven't touched it yet at all.
Yeah, let me know if you're playing on Sunday because it is more fun with people. I mean, it's you know, I played a little bit of the alpha single player and it seems totally fine, but man, that game really, really shines with multiple people. So. Which one are you playing it on?
I play it on PlayStation 4.
Okay. That's where I'm too.
I think, unlike Wii U, you have actually accepted my friend request on PSN, so we can probably get into that if you wanted to.
All right. Well, maybe we'll try and do that on Sunday, so we can talk about Destiny on Monday. But that's gonna do it for the morning show. And Alex, you will be streaming in a couple hours from now. And then also, I guess I should mention officially to people here, I have now shifted Worth Playing and Worth Reading to Monday, so that is no longer going up on Fridays anymore. They were features conceived when Giant Bomb did nothing on Fridays, which is part of the reason that like Unprofessional Friday came into existence, and now that we've got you guys on the East Coast, there's a lot of stuff on Fridays. So part of Worth Reading was conceived as filling in gaps, and Monday is now one of our gaps. So. It's now happening on Monday mornings, so look forward to that then. And I will talk to you on Monday morning, Alex.
Also look for a new episode of the Power Bombcast, which I think will go up today, provided Jeff actually sends me the audio file so I can edit it. So keep an eye out for that as well, premium members. And with that, oh.